And of course, last year we had some memorable moments here in Western Australia. Charles Stewart brings us up to date with the season so far.
Parallels are often drawn between World Championship rallying and Formula One. And although the two types of racing may seem poles apart, there are many similarities. The cars we see tearing through the forests of the world may look very similar to the road-going cars they're based on. But there's just as much development in these vehicles as there is in a Formula One. They produce huge amounts of horsepower. They are stripped of all but the most essential, and they can go from rest to 100 kilometers an hour in around 3 seconds. And the people who pilot these machines are no less remarkable than the cars. Can you imagine, for instance, wanting to race again after doing this? His $350,000 car was a write-off, but fortunately, its $2 million a year driver, Carlos Sainz, was able to walk away, albeit with a severely strained neck. The Spaniard is one of the sport's heroes. His frenetic driving style has excited crowds all over the world, including one of our own observers.
But look at the sideways action here! Oh, screws it right on!
Even if others may get excited by his exploits, the man himself, who excels at every sport he turns his hand to, never seems to get carried away.
How was that, Carlos?
Yeah, it was okay. Everything okay.
Did you beat Juha Kankkunen?
1 second.
You beat him by 1 second, so you're now 1 second in the lead.
1 second in the lead, yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Good.
Another seemingly unflappable star of this sport is the most successful of the flying Finns, Juha Kankkunen. He's the sport's only triple world champion. He's the reigning world champion, and he's won Rally Australia for the past 3 years. His driving style is less flamboyant than Sainz, but being smooth doesn't mean being slow. And sometimes in victory, even the quiet Finn cuts loose. Kankkunen's teammate is another exciting hard charger. Didier Auriol is having the most successful year of his career. The likeable Frenchman is at his most eloquent behind the wheel. His English, however, sometimes leaves a little to be desired.
Oh dear. What happened here, Didier?
I don't know. Maybe one
Tree?
Yes, I don't know. But it's difficult to see.
Yeah.
Another driver to watch is another former Finnish world champion, Ari Vatanen. A real virtuoso of rallying, Vatanen's art form was never better demonstrated than when he recorded the fastest ever ascent of Pikes Peak in Colorado, the world's oldest and most famous hill climb. Among the locals, the evergreen Ross Dunkerton is the one everyone loves to watch, if not just for his driving, but also for his comments.
Spectators, and there's a helicopter. This is bloody dangerous here. Oh, hold the phone, come on, come on, come on. Yeah, a bit of a giveaway.
In last year's event, Dunkerton finished 7th, but along the way had the narrowest of escapes possible.
It was pretty spectacular for the television people, but it was more spectacular for us because we went through the grid, which I didn't think we were going to make. Fred said it's all over, but we actually did get through. So I think you could have probably put probably a hair between the front of the car and the back of the car. We just got through. It was, mate, what am I doing here?
Last month, the West Australian finished 3rd in the Rally of New Zealand, the highest placing ever by an Australian in a round of the World Rally Championship. In the Group N class for production cars, Australians Ed Ordynski and Harry Manson will also be hard to overlook. They were the Group N winners last year and finished 4th in the World Championship as well. Rob Herridge, the winner of this year's Australian Rally Championship, has been very consistent and should also figure strongly. A celebrity driver making his debut here will be jazz musician James Morrison in a hot Celica GT4.
when I first had a taste of rallying, I sort of felt like right away, oh, where has this been all my life? Why haven't I been doing this? I should have been doing this since I was 15.
Over the next 4 days, Telecom's Rally Australia will showcase the best world rallying has to offer. It'll be a high-speed slip and slide, bump and bash through 3,000 kilometres of southwest forest and Swan River foreshore. And if previous years are anything to go by, it'll be fast and furious with more than a dash of the unexpected.
Could you be able to send one of your marshals down with a radio to see if they're okay?
Well, there's a quick look at the drivers and the cars you'll see in action. Let's take a ride with Ross Dunkerton, the wild man from the west.
Okay, 5 seconds to go. Control officials counting us down. Always got the shakes when you're about this time. 4, 3, 2, 1. You select first. Bring the reeds up to about 8,000. Drop the clutch and you're away. Rest into a left-hander. A bit sideways. Over the crest. Second, third. 100, 120, 130. Onto the brakes hard. And this is a tricky corner into a right-hander. Careful of the concrete on the outside. In tight. Down over a bit of a crest onto a left hand. Fast left hand over here. Down into what I call the roller coaster. Fast down over a crest. And the G-force as we hit the bottom here. You sink into the seat. Oh, and over the top. Over the top we go. Into a left-hander. Into a left-hander. Hold it tight. An uphill climb. A bit slow, but we're still got the pedal to the metal. Into a fast right-hander. Flat out. In tight. Slightly tightened. Into a grid. Oh, grid. Wide. And over the jump. Hold on. Oh, over we go. Into a right 4. Fast. Down. Bit of a crest here. Into a very fast right-hander. And it's going to tighten. It's going to tighten here. And you've got to line up. Waiting for another grid. And we're through. Oh, we just got through that one. Over the crest. Back into third. Over the crest. Another crest. Tight, fast. There's a blind one. Absolutely flat. 130, 140. Down onto the brakes into a right-hander, very tricky. Pump on the inside. Down onto a left, a fast left-hander. Here we're coming down. Look, it's the gear there. Into a left-hander. Left-hander over the crest. And here we come to the famous grid. Oh, let's see if we can get through it this time. I'm going to pick the line. Oh, we're coming around. Oh, we're through. Oh, hallelujah. Straight down. Into third. The fast cars will probably be hitting about 160, 170 down through here. Leave your braking right lane, onto the picks, into a right-hander, we're going to go sideways. Pull set back into second, this car's not too quick. Big long straight, and there's heaps of people here. This is the tricky spot, there's a lot of jumps here. And the tricky one is the second one as we go into the left-hander. Just touch the brake, this little car. Oh, we're okay, this is the one. Now we've got to straighten up to get a nice straight run over these jumps. Here we go, hold on to your teeth. Over the next jump. And another one. Another jump, hold on. And another one. And the next one here. They cut it fine, right, as close as you can. Right to the scaffolding. Oh, and now we've got the Channel 9 car on the road. Move over, boys. We're coming through. Make a bit of publicity there. Over the crest. Oh, another one. Into a fast left-hander. Oh, enough one more jump, I think. Oh, feel like a milkshake. Oh, hold the phone. Up here, over a crest. Blind crest, into a right-hander. Get it sideways. Nice and close. That's the way. Next one. Take it wide. Take it wide and cut it fine. Over the crest. Now, this is the big jump. This is the big one. Oh, everybody strapped in. Over this one, we'll be 2 metres in the air. Hold on! Oh, there you go! Into a right-hander. And this next one is a fast right-hander. As fast as we can go. Nice and close. Let it drift out wide. Plenty of run. Let's go. Come on in. Oh, there's the timing marker up ahead. In the fourth. These cars will be doing probably 160, 170 as they go through the timing marker. That's it. Everybody had a good time.
Ross Duggan, what a fantastic ride, Australia. How about that? Now, remember, his time, 4:50. The big guys will do that in around 3:30. That's 100 or 1 minute 20 faster. And the average speed around here, around about 110 kilometres an hour for the 6.81. All right, after the first stage this morning, this is how they finish up. Kankkunen and Auriol, the two Lancia drivers on equal time at 6:26. Ari Vatanen was next, 4 seconds slower. Then Carlos Sainz, 5 seconds slower. Dunkerton, we just saw 17 seconds off the pace. Running through the field now, Rod Millen from New Zealand, 19 seconds slower than the two top drivers. Recalde at 22, Bourne 22, and so the field goes down. That's how they've finished after the first of the special stages. They left Perth at around 9:30 this morning, Western Standard Time, and here we are at Uresh. Juha Kankkunen, the man who has won this event in 91. And here we go, Kankkunen on the road now. Fantastic driver, this fella. Watch this fella as he cranks up the little Lancia. Beautiful little balance car here. Likes the twisty stuff as he comes down. Washes off a little speed, under brakes it, gets it sideways through. Alan, he'll have to keep up the pace.
He certainly will. He's enjoying equal first position at the moment. But you see the way he flung the car to the left, then to the right. That's a thing that these Finnish drivers perfected, the right-hand braking style to get through the corner. Here we are, over the first jump. Yep.
And looking good, Juha Kankkunen won the event here. Of course, in 90 and 91, the Rally Australia, winner of the 86, 87, 91 World Championship, driving for Martini Racing in the beautiful little Lancia car, and that's really been their year. Now watch Kankkunen, he's a real technician as he washes off speed over the grid again. Oh, good shot there as he gets a little bit of air and now gets out into the fields, still winding up the wick, and the rain's starting to fall.
I tell you what, those gates look nice and wide when you're watching them on TV. But early this morning when I drove through, they're very, very narrow. And you have to approach them in a very strange angle. You actually go through them almost sideways.
Well, we're not seeing a lot of dust this year because of the rain that's been falling for the last 3 or 4 hours. This is a very special stage here. Kankkunen now gets the revs really wound up, working the gearbox. You can see sliding the car, washing the speed away. It'll drop down through the trees. And Alan, this gets scary here. This is the infamous gate.
Well, this is where he's got to set the car up. He'll go slightly left. You watch him. Now it's right. And then he's straight through. Beautifully done.
Oh, beautifully done. Juha Kankkunen, he just got through that grid a little bit sideways, hit it at the right bunny, went straight on the accelerator now. And you can see the rain tumbling down here from the chopper shop. Carlos Sainz, the man who must win here in Australia to keep his World Championship hopes alive. And he's looking through a windscreen of, well, cold and grey, but it'll certainly hot up when the Spaniard gets going. Revs building up, Carlos Sainz on the track. This guy is super spectacular. Watch this.
This car is super spectacular too. 4-wheel drive, 600 odd brake horsepower, purpose-built rally car, very, very quick. And here he goes. You watch him. Little left, then right. Whoops-a-daisy, did that a little bit wrong, actually. I think he put a bit too much braking on there.
And there's some concrete walls down there that they've built up, the organisers here, and the drivers are very, very conscious they're there. If you lose it, bang, you're straight into the concrete. Down the hill, watch the road, it gets a bit slippery. See the car getting sideways now, through the grid, beautifully done.
Now he lines it up with this very quick left-hander. Whoops, a little bit sideways. He's a little bit untidy, Des, I think. Like, he seems to be slightly, but this is the man's style. He is very aggressive.
Drives on the ragged edge. He said this is the best organised rally in the world at a press conference here last night. Coming up to the jump, watch him come through. Oh, beautifully done. Lewis Moyer said the rest of the world can learn from this rally. The organisers do what the drivers ask. So there you go. As we watch Sainz getting a bit sideways now as he winds up the wick. Back with Kankkunen. Kankkunen, the little Lancia, coming up to the jump area. Watch this. A little bit of hoop-de-doo here. They'll get some air. Kankkunen now winds it up. The Lancia in the air and doing it hard.
He's putting plenty around underneath that car. No danger about having the air vent on the roof open today, Des.
No doubt about that, but these jumps, let me tell you, they hit him at an unbelievable speed as he winds up the hill, gets really sideways now, and you watch the straw barrier there as he comes through, over the jump again. Fantastic stuff from Kankkunen.
He's really wound that little Lancia up. He really wants to. I spoke to him earlier this morning. He wanted to take an early lead and maintain it. He's in a very aggressive mood.
134 kilometres an hour. You saw the police radar back there. Official time 0:03:42.95. So that's the time to beat so far. Didier Auriol on the line, the teammate who has done so well. 5 wins this year, all around the world. Having his Sebastien, the Frenchman. He's on the track and racing now, and he is also spectacular. Straight away he gets it sideways and the power down.
Well, he was equal quickest in the first stage with his teammate Kankkunen, so it's going to be really up to these two guys now to see who's going to set the pace.
Similar line down there through those little concrete blocks, Alan.
Yeah, they've got those concrete blocks right on the outside of the circuit, and I tell you, if you did it wrong there, you'd be into those concrete blocks, no problems at all.
Fantastic the way they use the car and the road to wash off the speed. Under brakes, I'll kick it one way, kick it the other. Watch this. Gets it sideways now, winds up the wing. Now back on the power, uses the gearbox. Oh, the Lancia looks really stable against the Toyota.
Yes, it does. The Toyota seems to be a little bit far more twitchier going into the corners. The Lancia's a lot more stable. Here we're going over one of these jumps. Whoop, there he goes. I tell you, I couldn't believe when I drove around the circuit this morning how narrow those gateways were and the angle in which you had to approach them.
Okay, so we're looking at Didier Auriol now, really working the Lancia. This is a stage they like, and here we are now back with Carlos Sainz. Has to win this Rally Australia. The Telecom Rally Australia keep his World Championship hopes alive. Gets the car out of shape. Coming up to the jump areas now. Oh, nice big slide from Sainz, the Spaniard. El Matador's hard at it here at Muresque.
Yeah, I mean, the guy only knows one speed, and that's flat chat the whole way. I mean, he's got that car. He knows that this is, if he doesn't win today, his World Championship hopes are dead. So he's really going for it. 139 kilometres an hour.
And definitely faster than the Lancia on that section. There's his time, 3:34.43. Oh, fast time there. Very fast time there. Ari Vatanen on the line now. The man, of course, Pikes Peak Run. We've shown it to you so many times on Nine's Wide World of Sports. That time was set in 1988. He told us last night that they want to put concrete all around that area now leading up onto the hill, and he said he'd still like to have a go, but it'd be very dangerous. Vatanen on the circuit.
It's a very quick little car. They run this car not obviously in rally trim at the 12-hour race at Bathurst, and it really did open up a few eyes. It's a very quick, constant four-wheel drive, turbocharged car, very quick, and of course he finished in front of the Toyota in the first stage, which is no mean feat.
Remember, these cars are spaced by a couple of minutes, so at any one time we've got more than one cars on the circuit. We'll try and keep you up and keep you up to date how they're going. This 6.81 kilometre series, and they average 110 kilometres an hour, so they really get it in top gear and plant it, as you can see there. Vatanen, he's a technician, this fellow, isn't he? He's one of the real products of rallying.
Well, he's been around for a long, long time, Harry Vatanen, and I remember I was at Donington many years ago, and he took me for a ride in a Ford, and I tell you what, I've never been so scared in all my life.
Okay, Didier Auriol now, the man leading the World Championship. 5 first, Monte Carlo, Corsica, Acropolis, Argentina, Finland, and he wants to do it here. Equal fastest time with Kankkunen in that first stage. Watch him now as he winds up over the ups. There's the first one.
I see something hanging off the back of this little Lancia. There we go. Now, it almost looks like he's gone a little bit wide. It may be through one of those gates. He's caught the back of the car and ripped the rear bumper off it.
Well, the car getting out of shape already. Not quite as spectacular as Sainz down through this area, but the little Lancia handling everything pretty well. Lots of people out here, drizzly rain, the dust is down, but the track's very fast. As you can see him slide round, we'll look for his fastest time on the police radar trap. There it is, 1:33. Slower than Kankkunen, slower than Sainz. His time is 3:37.18. Car 6 sitting on the line now.
There's Ross Dunkerton, the man that took us for the lap before, and the one who just got through that gate area. Let's hope he's a little bit quicker this time.
One of the great characters of Australian motorsport, a great talent, and I hope you enjoyed that armchair ride around Muresque. Here he goes. Anything can happen when Dunko gets going. And let me tell you, very respected around the world, and was only a last-minute entrant here. Mitsubishi decided to put him back in the rally, and the fans here in Western Australia, right around Australia, are really happy about that.
Whoops, a little bit of understeer. He didn't put the car to the left then to the right like we've seen the Europeans do. Obviously, it might be a trait of the car. A lot cleaner entry into that right-hander, but certainly a man who thoroughly enjoys his job.
Oh, no doubt about that. He really does enjoy it. And, of course, when you saw him going round just a few moments ago, that was in the 0-0 car, one of the cars they use, of course, to clear the stages. Now, you can see this is a much bigger car, a heavier car. It doesn't quite get the attitudes that we see the little European cars.
No, well, obviously, it's not as nimble. He can't just throw it around. And I made that comment as we saw him going into the first right-hander. With the smaller, nimble, more powerful cars, they can literally chuck them around and use the attitude to slow them down going into the corners. This car is a little bit more heavier, obviously. Here we go. There's a Subaru. Harry Vatanen.
So Ari Vatanen now on this other part of the circuit. Of course, you've got Dunkerton on the first part. He's on the last part of the stage. Let's have a look now as the little Subaru Legacy gets wound up. He knows he's got to wring its neck here to try and peg back tenths of a second here, tenths of a second there. Now he'll come through this sideways here. Oh, nicely done. Gets the car to lovely attitude and gets straight back onto the horsepower.
Very clean. He's driving the car very smooth. He's not using all of the road. This probably is a legacy of the four-wheel drive. It does give them a slight advantage in this. Here we are, that was 130 to 151. Bit of confusion there. So if he was on the road, he couldn't have booked him.
His time, 3:40.89 for Ari Vatanen. Jorge Recalde from Argentina in the Lancia. He's now on the line. We're going back shortly to have a look at Ross Dunkerton for you. Jorge Recalde now is underway on the circuit. That first little corner, they've really got to hit that pretty hard, and that sets it up down the hill for this next one, the right-hander, where you'll see now just get the attitude. Well, he's probably been the neat and tidiest through there, no doubt about that. He's thinking about the concrete.
Well, it does give you something to think about, does?
So down he comes down the hill. We'll be going back to Ross Dunkerton shortly as we're watching now Recalde, the little Mitsubishi Ralliant. And this car does look a lot slower on the circuit, no doubt about that. He certainly isn't getting the attitudes we've seen. Car 7, so, but that doesn't mean he's not going quickly. And here we go now with Ross Dunkerton coming up to the ups. He loves this. Watch Dunkerton. Dunkerton will throw everything here. The big heavy car comes down a lot harder than the light nimble European cars. Bang, bang, bang. Thank you, ma'am. Dunko in action here, getting some air.
He is, and you can really see the difference in the weight of the car, the way it does come down off the bumps. Look at, oh, it's really putting a lot of that suspension well and truly to work.
As he said, he felt like a milkshake this morning. He's been every which way. Comes around this corner, he'll get it sideways. We'll watch for his speed too. It's a pretty powerful motor car. This certainly doesn't get it a sideways there, as we saw Sainz and Kankkunen going through there. Auriol too was pretty spectacular. Dunkerton taking a more conservative line.
Yes, he is very, very clean, and he obviously got through that fence. Here we go, 129, I think that was. It was a bit quick on the camera, but obviously a lot slower than those more lighter, powerful cars.
So Ross Dunkerton's time, 3:42.76 for the Aussie. Car 9 now, Rod Millen, the New Zealander, who now lives in America and customised a lot of Mazda cars there. He's also a Pikes Peak specialist and won the small car series this year over there, Alan Jones, and he's been around motorsport in open wheelers and rally cars for a long, long time.
Yes, he was a very successful Formula Atlantic campaigner. He's driven lots and lots of cars, but now he's made his home in America, modifying and racing Mazdas and doing very well at it.
New Zealand Rally Champ, 75, 76, 77 in 89, 5th Rally Australia, 91, 7th Rally Australia. This year's second in the Malaysia Championship, driving the Mazda Rally Team Asia Pacific. So, Rod Millen, he's always quick, very neat and tidy. This is Jorge Recalde now, still coming up to the final part of the circuit. I've got to say he's unspectacular, but he has been pretty quick. He's neat and tidy. Now he starts to get a little sideways.
Well, I was about to make that very same comment. He's nowhere near as spectacular to look at, but, you know, that can be very deceiving. His lines are very, very clean. He may be getting the power to the road very well, and it'll be very interesting seeing what his final time is.
Well, 91, Safari was third, 130, so still around the Ross Dunkerton speed in 91, Argentina he was fifth. Let's have a look at his time, 3:46.82 for Jorge Recalde. Car 10 now, which was Possum Bourne, and really this New Zealander has made quite a name on the international scene this year, driving for Subaru, the four-wheel drive turbo car, and of course he and Dunkerton have had some classic duels in the Pacific Series. But here he goes, Possum Bourne, he's pretty spectacular, and he and Dunko have a private war.
Well, they do. They've got a point to prove. I love watching this right-hand corner. He's taken a very unusual line. He's almost like a classic racing line. He went right out wide to the left and took a proper apex, and that's the first one I've seen do that.
When you look at cars on the dirt against the sort of cars that you're driven, I mean, the difference in the driver's skill, so many people say they'd like to see a rally driver like an Ari Vatanen or a Juha Kankkunen get into a Formula One. Could they handle it?
Well, they would handle it, but they wouldn't want to start throwing it left to go right, that's for sure. You know, I think really it's horses for courses, and as I said before, when we went to Donington, they used to pitch Formula One drivers against rally drivers, one of which was Vatanen. We used to go to a place called Donington, and in the morning we'd race on the road circuit, and then in the afternoon we'd go through a special stage like this.
So you're looking now at Bourne. He'll wring its neck. Don't worry about this. It's Rod Millen now. He's coming up the jumps. Look at the difference in the little light car. Gets plenty of air and comes down like it's on a feather bed.
Yeah, very good car, these little 323s. They were designed in their limited numbers and homologated for rallying, and they've been very successful all throughout the world.
We drove these in the Personality Challenge last year. Of course, won by the great Dennis Lilly. And they really are quite quick little cars. So let's have a look how they go now as he winds it up, gets the power down. You can see the wipers are going, the rain's still falling down here. No dust, but, well, it's pretty slippery and slidey out there. He gets the attitude, goes, washed off a bit of speed. We should be able to get you a police radar trap speed for you. Up he comes, his time 3:46.66 for Rod Millen.
Pretty respectable time in a little car like that.
Back on the starting grid, car 11.
Ed Ordynski.
Now this fellow really is a talent in the making, Alan Jones. He's been driving Group N cars, which are basically production cars. 4th in the championship last year, that was for the world. Won the Group N series here, and a lot of factory teams have been looking at this fellow very carefully.
Yes, I know. Last night when we booked into the hotel, we were talking to a lot of the team managers, and they certainly mentioned his name quite frequently.
He's a very neat and tidy driver and a very dedicated driver. He really does put a lot of time into his rallying. As we watch Ed Ordynski going around now, his co-driver is Mark Stacey. They won the Australian Championship in '89, first Group N Rally Australia, 1990 10th Rally Australia, 92 Rally of New Zealand, 2nd in Group N. Very consistent, Ed Ordynski, and very well respected worldwide. And don't be surprised if this fellow moves up into Group A with a factory drive.
It'll be very interesting to see how his time compares with Ross Dunkerton, almost in an identical car. We're back on the Subaru now.
This is Bourne again, the heavier car, but you can see he's got plenty of speed going up now. Winds it up the hill. You can see a bit of fire belching out of the exhaust as he gets it sideways. Watch for the jumps. There's the first one now. Comes down pretty hard. You can see the co-driver there, Roger Freak, really taking the shocks. They come down pretty hard in these big cars.
On the dirt like this, they're just soaring at that wheel all the time. If you watch the driver's arms, he just does not stop. He's backwards and forwards every second.
So Bourne, Ross Dunkerton's arch rival, but he's out here for outright honours. Remember, this is only the 2nd stage. A long, long way to go in this rally. As we look at his time now, 3:39.72 for Bourne, the New Zealander. Here we go now, car 12 off the line as we watch Carlos Menem from Argentina. His co-driver is Victor Zucchini, and he's in the top run racing in a Lancia, 4th in the World Rally Championships in '91. That was Group N, 1st in Group N, the Portuguese rally, 6th overall in Argentina, so a very gifted driver and plenty of experience.
Rallying's very, very popular in Argentina. I know that Carlos Reutemann, my teammate in Formula One, when he gave up Formula One racing, he took up rallying and he thoroughly enjoyed it. It's a very popular sport in Argentina.
So the little car now, you can see, gets nice and loose as he comes around there. And I think, really, he sort of lost a lot of time there. The car got sideways, but then you could see he overcorrected. He went from understeer to oversteer immediately.
Yeah, well, perhaps a little bit of inexperience there. It comes from actually quite a well-known father. His father just happens to be the president of Argentina. So he obviously has quite a bit of help when he does race in Argentina with the surface vehicles.
So the little car now winds his way around. You can see the speed noticeably slower than the top men that we saw first out on the section this morning. But coming over the jumps now is Ed Ordynski in car 11. And you can see now that as these Group N cars, I mean, they can hold the power on a lot longer. They just don't have the revs and the horsepower to really tear up the hill the way that the full Group A cars do. But he's doing a really good job. The car neat and tidy online all of the time.
I suppose that the best way of looking at this for those of you who watch Group A touring car racing in Australia is that the Group A's are like the cars Dick Johnson, Tony Longhurst and Peter Brock and so forth race, and the Group N cars are like the Group E's that are raced. So the other ones are far more heavily here. What speed has he done? 142 kilometres an hour.
Gee,
these cars are far more...
142, that's quicker than a lot of the other cars in front of him. A time of 4:04.04. Cars now making their way out on the circuit. This is Mohammed bin Sulayem, and he's in a Ford Sierra Cosworth. And again, a driver that we don't know a heck of a lot about, but he comes here with quite a pedigree. Let's have a look. 86 to 91, he was the Middle East champion. 91, the Dubai International Rally, he won that. In 91, also the Oman Rally he won. And in 91, the Qatar Rally also first. So he's well credentialed out of the Middle East. Mohammed bin Sulayem, he's 31 years of age from the United Arab Emirates. So you're seeing a full-scale international event here in Western Australia.
Once again, a four-wheel drive car that's been adapted and copes very well with rallying, and it's funny, on the way here this morning to the circuit, I noticed that there was camel racing down the road, so he may have even been here before.
Well, I guess one thing about you going and learning race circuits, they've got to do the same thing on dirt roads. But the big trouble they've had, Alan, when they've come here for the first time, Australian roads have little marbles on them, and they sort of very, very slippery, unlike anywhere else in the world.
And also, like anything else that I've ever done, or most racing drivers have ever done, you have to rely immensely on your co-driver or your navigator, because he's the guy that's yelling out and telling you approximately how fast and what gear and so forth that you should be taking the next corner. So you've got to have a lot of faith in him.
Oh, no doubt about that. They've done something like 5,000 kilometres of recce's here over these roads, and Lewis Moyer was saying that that's the amount of mileage he's done the last 7 days learning the roads. As we look at Carlos Menem again, the Argentinian, coming round in this little Lancia. And again, he gets a little bit of air over the jump. Noticeably slower than the works Lancias.
Yeah, I was just about to say that you really can see the difference between the real hard professionals and the guys that do it on a less full-time basis. They just attack these corners and jumps with far less aggression. Here, 4 minutes 15.61 for Carlos Menem.
Now on the track.
That's the Japanese driver, Yoshio Fujimoto, and he's in the Nissan Pulsar GTIR.
These little cars, though, Alan, I mean, when you think of the amount of punishment they're going to take over the next 3 or 4 days, I mean, this is just one section. They'll go through forests. They go through very fast roads, over rocky roads. They're working the diff of the gearbox, the axles. I mean, they really do take a heck of a load of work. And if you think of your family car and you go on holidays the way you check it out and look after it, I mean, after one of these things, it'll be 2 lifetimes of a normal family car.
Oh, 5 or 6 lifetimes. In actual fact, as well as watching what we're watching, we have got a report coming up a little bit later on to give you an idea just how they do service these vehicles and the sort of backup service that they do get. And that in itself is pretty phenomenal.
Oh, they can actually rebuild cars here in a matter of minutes. When you see them into the service areas, it's quite remarkable as they really do attack them. Now, over the jumps this time, this is the Ford Sierra Cosworth. Looking at Mohammed bin Sulayem from the United Arab Emirates. He winds the car up the hill. This is a lot steeper than it looks on television, and you can see the bumps now as the car gets plenty of air, bumps it down round the corner. Rain really starting to bucket down here. One good thing, I guess, it's kept the dust down for the drivers, but this track will get very, very slippery and start to rut up as the cars work the racing line.
Yeah, well, see, the other thing is if they've done some recce's, if they've done recce's for the last couple of days on this circuit, and it's been a dry circuit, now that it's getting wet, it's obviously getting a lot harder, and that'll alter their whole sort of approach and the way they do these corners.
No doubt about that. The tyre changing would change too. There's the time, 4:03.10. Car 15 now.
Another Ford Sierra, Kurt Gottlicher. He's an Austrian, and he's also in a four-wheel drive Ford Sierra.
So the Austrian now, he winds down. His first look at the Australian roads, has not been here before. in the Ford Sierra Cosworth. I guess that's a car we're very familiar about with our touring car racing here in Australia. This is having a look at them doing something totally different.
Well, I tell you what, I wish they had four-wheel drive in the Australian Touring Car Championship, or particularly when I was driving, they would have made them a little bit easier, because they do have quite a considerable amount of horsepower, these things. They can turn the wick up, that's turn the turbo boost up, and they can really push out some horsepower. And of course, if you're transmitting that through four wheels rather than just the two at the back, it certainly is a big help.
Well, Alan, you raced one of these for a season, and I know that you've had a lot of experience on the hard tracks with it. How much differently, and I know that might sound like a silly question, are they set up to your Group A racing car for rallying? We'll come back to that when we look at the car in a moment, because right now we're looking at another Car 14 out on the track now, and this is the Japanese pair of Fujimoto, and he's really got the wick wound up on the little Nissan Pulsar GTI, I should say, and you can see now that he can really go into that corner so much deeper than the big cars. He can brake so much later, and now he gets the car slung away, but he doesn't really get the attitude of the bigger cars. He can do it so much easier. Very, very nice handling car, these.
Oh, they are. Well, once again, these are a car that were purpose-built to a certain degree and homologated very much with rallying in mind. The other interesting thing to note about this is that the actual co-driver, Hakuru Aikino, is the team owner. It's actually called Team Hakuru Aikino. So here we are, 4 minutes and 5:36. Co-driver that obviously loves rallying and puts all his faith in the guy sitting next to him.
Car 17.
Robert Herridge.
Now, this fellow really has a great pedigree here in the West. He was first in the Forest Rally, the Alpine Rally, 92 Australian Rally champion. In 88, 8th in the Rally Australia. 90, he was 22nd in the rally. But he drives a Subaru, and he really does come into this event with a big reputation. He's fast, he's very forceful, and he's a real thinking driver too. You know, he really is quite cunning in the way he takes on a rally.
Yeah, well, it's his home event, so obviously this course will be certainly no stranger to him. I think you always have a little bit of a psychological edge when you're competing in front of your home crowd and so forth. It just gives you that little bit more edge to get on and go for it, and this is what he's doing.
Well, the Subaru Legacy, the four-wheel drive turbo car, they're extremely quick. They've been very, very quick on the international scene this year. They've been quite a surprise. No surprise really to Alan Jones, who saw them in action in the Bathurst 12-hour race and said how quick they were now. There's a good shot of washing off the speed.
Yeah, washes it off by, once again, left on the steering wheel and then right into the corner. Here we go, the Ford Sierra coming up over these bumps.
So the Austrian pair now have Gottlicher and Pointlinger as they throw their Ford Sierra around, looking for a much improved time. They finished down on the first segment, but as I said, there's a long way to go. Only Carlos Sainz, Kankkunen, Auriol, those sort of fellows will attack every stage at full-on speed. These fellows know it's a test of endurance as much as speed. They've got days of rallying ahead and hundreds of kilometres with all sorts of roads to tackle as yet.
They also know that there's probably not three Pantechnicons waiting for them to replace half the car, which does slow you down a bit.
That's a pretty good point. Some of the rebuilds, Alan, you'll see over the next few days are quite amazing. I mean, I know you've been around motorsport a long time, you've seen all that happen before, but what they do in the bush here is just mind-boggling.
And the time in which they do it, that's the other thing. I mean, these guys can throw shock absorbers and almost complete... Here we go, 4 minutes and 20 seconds and 60.69.
Let's bring you up to date now with the top results of the Telecom Australia Rally after the second stage. Auriol, Didier, a Frenchman in the Lancia, still leading with his time there, but Carlos Sainz has bumped himself off. Remember, he was trailing by 5. He's made up 3 seconds, now trailing by 2 seconds. Juha Kankkunen gone back a place, now trailing by 5 seconds. Then Ari Vatanen, Ross Dunkerton, look at the Australian sitting there in 5th. Possum Bourne. So the Dunkerton Bourne fight continues. He's 25 seconds off the pace. Then the New Zealander Rod Millen. Then Recalde, Ordynski with a very respectable time. 1:10 down overall. Remember, he's Group N. And then Sulayem. Track in just a couple of moments' time. You're looking at car 1 there on the line for you, Juha Kankkunen. Now, Alan, this track has totally changed now since they were here just an hour or so ago. They've been out to York and back. The rain has really taken hold, and where it was just slippery now, it's quite wet.
Well, the rain's just continued to pour down. Now he's off now, but the rain has poured down consistently since we've been here, and it's really soaked the ground, as you can see. Now they may all the stuff that they may have learnt this morning may be out the window. They might even have to go to different tyres. Oh, look at that! A lot of sliding as he went in fairly deep. You know, it is now actually very. Look at that bit of sideways coming out. A lot of trouble putting the power down. It's another learning curve for them.
No doubt about that. Juha Kankkunen really doing a bit of slip and slide here at US now as we see him come down under brakes. Watch the car's attitude change here. Gets a little bit of air. Plenty of mud sliding around now. Gets the car totally sideways. Watch this now. Oh, great driver, this fellow. Plenty of experience. As we said before, winner 86, 87, 91 World Championships, 90 and 91 the Rally of Australia first place. You're watching one of the best in the world here as he comes up to the starting grid. Over they come again. Bang! Thank you. Great television here from the West.
Well, I tell you what, it'll be interesting to see Sainz now and his run, because the weather conditions now are really favouring the four-wheel drive. I mean, four-wheel drive is actually very good in the dry, but in these sort of conditions where it's even more slippery, see the back come out then, this is where the four-wheel drives will come into their own.
Oh, Alan, he's really trying now. The Finnish ace has got the wick wound up. He's got the pedal right down on the floor. Now watch this, as we've said before, this track has totally changed since the last time they were here just an hour or so ago. The rain has really soaked into the mud, and look at the attitudes of the cars. Every time he hits the pedal now, he gets a little bit of sideways action as they come up to the infamous gate. Look at the way the car's sliding through, and he gets there with some great driving from Kankkunen. Oh boy, love this, love this.
That was a fantastic line that he took through. He kept well over to the right, judged the way the car was going to slide perfectly, and went through the gate dead straight. Fantastic. Now this is the bloke we've got to keep an eye on. Four-wheel drive, very powerful. He could very well take the lead in the stage, in my opinion.
Lewis Moyer, the co-driver of the great Spanish Matador. Carlos Sainz now. Look at the Salika as he gets it going and throws the mud straight away. He's got the car sideways and turned up. This is Carlos Sainz when he loves to go. He's on the charge. He's made 4 seconds up. The attitude of the car every which way. He's in for a big go here.
Yeah, well, you can see that he really threw the car to the left, then to the right, relying on that power to pull him out. He's really going for it. He knows now that this is his opportunity to grab the lead.
Down he comes under brakes. Watch him come through the gates. As Alan said this morning when we went round the track, you can't believe how narrow they are, and they were going a lot quicker than us. Look at this now. Gets a Salika tweaked up and having a big go. Carlos Sainz, El Matador.
Fantastic style, this guy. I mean, he really doesn't hold anything back at all. Everything's go for broke as he lines it up to go through here, straightens it out at the last minute, takes off fantastic.
Great stuff here in the West now as we're really seeing the big boys in action. And this man really has been on the charge, making up seconds on every stage, chasing the Frenchman, Didier. Auriol, a big off hands. We're back now with Kankkunen as he comes up to the yumps. Oh, what about Sainz with a big slide? Talk about slippery and wet. Road conditions here falling away. Remember, they'll get chopped up as this rally continues. So these men are getting the best of the conditions. You can see how wet the road is there.
It really is very icy. I mean, if you look at the front of the car as he turns into the corner, it's taking quite a while for that front to get any grip at all. And then when it does, the back lets go. It really is very icy conditions.
Well, what about, they've seen a little stab on the brakes. They've got to try and balance the car under brakes. They throw it sideways to watch the speed off. There's the speed trap for you, 129. Now, if you see that change, that's because the car's accelerating. Time for Kankkunen, 3:48.29.
Yeah, well down on this morning's times, but that's not entirely surprising.
Car 3 in the line. The man leading the rally so far, Didier Auriol from France. Going to Lancia. Away he goes. We'll go back to Sainz in a moment. The Frenchman now winds it up, and you can see using all the road and then some. Down he comes under brakes. Watch the attitude. Plenty under brakes as he throws it into the corner.
That was beautifully judged. I mean, he just put that car exactly where he wanted it, and he was on the power nice and early to get him going down here, which is one of the fastest parts of the circuit. And I guess how well you come out of that corner dictates your speed down here and over the bridge.
No doubt about it. He doesn't quite get the air that Juha got coming around there, but he's certainly got the line, and he's a lot tidier there. He doesn't quite get the oversteer that we saw Juha getting in that position.
Well, you see, I mean, to be all over the place and sliding off the circuit and all the rest of it, it's all very impressive. Whoops, he got a bit sideways there. Didn't want to start all that nonsense before the bridge. Yep, she's off.
Okay, so as you look at Auriol going away in the distance, here he is, El Matador over the Yumps now, gets a Toyota cranked up. Don't forget his best time this morning was 3.34 seconds, 3 minutes 34 was his time this morning, and he really is on the charge. Has been making seconds up on every stage. Look at the air, the Toyota gets down, up he goes down a gear, puts it down right to the floor and gets plenty of power to the ground.
Yeah, he's certainly putting the power to the ground. It's going to be very interesting to see. I predict this car is going to be about 3 or 4 seconds quicker than the Lancias, but time will tell. He's certainly trying.
Alan, the heavier car would work better in these conditions. At least he's getting more weight down on this wet road.
Oh, yeah, sure. But, I mean, also the heavier car, you definitely need the horsepower to put it along. But 138 kilometres an hour as he comes up towards the finishing line, this will be interesting.
3:45.55.
Yeah, well, that's
3:34 this morning.
Yeah, well, that's also some 3 seconds quicker than Auriol. So he may have very well taken the lead with that one.
Ari Vatanen. Remember, as we told you this morning, the Pikes Peak run. You've seen that vision on Wide World of Sport so many times. He's had people in Australia coming up and complimenting on that vision since he's arrived here. He said, I can't believe how many people have brought it up. Of course, that time was set way back in 1988. This fellow, 10 World Championship events, 81 world title, 87 through 91, the Paris to Dakar, he was first, 87, 88, 91, the Faroes Rally was first, and of course that Pikes Peak record we told you about. Unbelievable vision. So here he goes, really crashes down, throws the mud around. He's going to get dirty, this fella. Ari Vatanen's having a big go.
Well, he's got a lot to prove, Ari, because he had that very bad accident 3 or 4 years ago, spent a year or two off. He's come back, he's in a very competitive drive. It's a 4-wheel drive car. He is out with a point to prove, and I think today he's going to do it. Whoop, he certainly gets it mobile over there.
Very dedicated in our discussion last night. He said, I really want to do well in Australia this time. Really want to do well, and he's going very well at the moment. We're back down with car 3. This is Didier Auriol, the Frenchman, leading the event at the stage. Really getting some air there. Look at the mud all over the car. You can see the road starting to really chop up now. They're getting the best runs out of it. As this rally wears on, this road will really cut up. You can see as it comes down, wants to swing away. He's got to correct it all the way through. Big power slide from the Frenchman.
Yeah, I think in this condition, it's the guy that's going to be able to get the power to the road cleanly, get out of the corners nice and cleanly without going too sideways, because that's where obviously you lose a lot of your time.
Balance all important here, so delicate.
Everything, and these guys are fantastic. They actually brake with their left. Here we go, 130 kilometres an hour coming up towards the end.
So Auriol's time of 3:49.16 for the Frenchman. All right, here's the man we want to see, Ross Dunkerton. Ross Dunkerton now in action in a big heavy car. It'll be interesting to see the difference now. We've seen the light European rockets getting along, but this car a lot bigger, a lot heavier, and already you can see the difference there. And don't forget there's concrete barriers there. Dunko, he'll have a bit of fun around here. He knows it as well as he knows his own driveway.
Well, see, what's happened is the circuits, the conditions have changed considerably. So he probably went into that corner, even knowing that it was a little bit wetter than the last time, but just miscalculated just how wet it was. Went in a little bit too deep, paid the penalty, and slid off.
Well, Dunkerton, he is spectacular. Look, the people in the forest just cheer him every time he gets in the car. Wonderful character. Fred Cassettas, who has been around for as long as I can remember, one of the best co-steerers in the business, but look at this, the thing's going every which way. He knows all about these grids. He thrilled us all last year with some spectacular driving, and he won't be any different this time round. This is Ari Vatanen now over the Yumps. The finish ace. Looking down on the chopper, you can see there just how wet the road is. You can see the car getting airborne. Watch his attitudes though. There's the first of the power slides. Look at the car control from Vatanen.
Yeah, he went a little wide there. Probably may have had to come off the accelerator a bit more than what he would have liked to, but he's certainly giving the Subaru plenty.
Oh, it doesn't come round that corner nicely, isn't nicely there. It just steps around, steps the back out, but looks really stable through there.
Yeah, this looks a really good run to me, I tell you. Whoops, oh, beautifully judged through there. The nose of the car right on the apex. 133 kilometres, very quick.
So Ari Vatanen now hits the finish line with a time of 3:47.52 for the finish champ.
Well, that's great. I mean, that is quicker than the Lancias.
Great time from Vatanen. He's out for a big one. This is Jorge Recalde from Argentina now. gets set to get it away. Bogs down a little bit with wheel spin because of this slippery road. Remember, they've probably had to go to different rubber compounds. They've changed the whole setup of the car since they were here a couple of hours ago. These little European rockets, beautiful cars, and the sounds they make as they accelerate away are just sensational through the forest.
The problem with this, of course, since the last time they were here, they were unable to do a recce, so they can only change the specifications of the car on a guess situation. Some will get it right and some will get it wrong. They haven't even had the ability to be able to walk around the course and have a look, so really where they're going now is a new adventure to them.
Yeah, and if viewers around Australia have just joined us, Alan, those gates are so much narrower than they look there on television. We went round this morning.
Well, they're not only narrow, but the actual road approaches them at a funny angle. You don't approach them dead straight on. You actually approach them at an acute angle, and you're really, under these conditions, when the car's sliding all over the place, you see, here we go, look, a funny angle. And he straightens it up at the last minute and goes through. Very dicey stuff.
Of course, the other thing you may explain to our viewers is that they actually use their left foot when they're braking. So they do a lot of different things in a car that we would normally not do on a road.
Here's Ross Dunkerton back going over the yumps.
Dunkerton trying his heart out. But as I said, this left foot braking, they really do work all of the time.
Well, they use that up. What they do is they put the brake bias a lot more to the back than we would on a family car. In other words, when they put their foot on the brake, it really goes to the back a lot more viciously than it would in a normal car. So what they do is they use their left foot to jab the brake, momentarily lock up the rear wheels to bring the back of the car around to go around the corner.
Very busy people in the car, and of course the co-driver has notes in front of him. He's saying we can hit this at 90, we go hard left, we're on the brakes. He's telling me exactly what to do. Dunkerton listening to every word he says. All he's got to do is steer the car, drive the car, brake the car. Plenty to do, but he's getting plenty of help as well. Dunkerton's time, 3:53.10. Good one for the Aussie. This is Rod Millen, the New Zealander now living in America. And this fellow, lots and lots of experience, has driven open-wheeler cars, has hit the Pikes Peak climb many times, and in fact won the small class there this year. He's quite a hero in America, and he does a lot of custom work on Mazda cars. While we're looking at Rod Millen, I'd like to take this opportunity of thanking Australian Airlines for getting our crew from all around Australia here in the West. Thank you for your help. Always the best way to go, Australian Airlines around Australia. Now, talking about Australia, there's a battle going on between Dunkerton and Bourne. We'll see Bourne in a moment, but this New Zealander too, I guess now he's more an American than New Zealand, but still has New Zealand on his passport.
Oh yeah, he's based in California. He's responsible for doing a lot of handiwork on Mazda cars. He, as you say, he's done a lot of work on Mazdas up Pikes Peak. He currently holds the record for that class of car up there. Well respected in both open wheelers, touring cars, and now rallying.
And having a big go. Now see how the road's starting to chop up. We're getting big ruts now where the cars have been sliding, the tyres start to bite, and we get really big ruts. So the early drivers definitely have an advantage. This is car 7 coming up to the finish area now.
Yeah, it's Jorge Recalde in the Lancia, taking it a lot steadier than obviously the works cars.
Well, of course, we've got to remind people that they've got days ahead of them and hundreds of kilometres of very fast stuff through the forest. They can't just go out and wreck cars in the first 3 days. You can't tell Carlos Sainz that. You can't tell Juha Kankkunen that. They'll try everything they can to be fastest every time round. But it's also a test of endurance driving.
Oh, absolutely. I was talking to, well, we were talking to Colin Bond last night. Apparently, Harry Vatanen came up to him 1 year, a couple of years ago when he came out here, and he's 124 kilometres an hour for Recalde, and his time is coming up 3 minutes 57.76. So he's some 10 seconds slower than the other Lancias.
Right, Bourne now. This will be, oh, look at Bourne as he winds up the wick. He wants Dunkerton. No doubt about that. The Kiwi off the planet from the first corner. Oh, this is a great war going on. Every year they carry on, these two. Bourne and Dunkerton. He's done exactly the same thing Dunkerton did.
Yeah, went in too quick. A little bit too deep, paid the penalty, and actually the old back right-hand side of the car tipped up a bit. He would have lost a heap of time then.
I love watching this guy go round. He really has a big go. It's a big car, it's a heavy car, it's a wet road, but he won't worry. He's got one thing in his mind, and that's Dunkerton as he throws it sideways.
Yeah, it's also a four-wheel drive car as well, so gives him a slight advantage over Ross.
Possum Bourne making a big name internationally. In fact, in New Zealand, this man was faster than Carlos Sainz in some of the sections.
Yeah, I mean, that was a fantastic feat. There's no doubt about that at all. As I was saying before, you and I were both talking to Colin Bond last night. Ari Vatanen came up to him a couple of years ago and said to Colin, how many cars have you rolled so far? And Colin said, well, how do you mean? I haven't rolled any. And then Ari said, well, how do you know your limit?
Yeah, how do you pick the limit? Car 11, Ordynski now. This fellow, as we said earlier, is quite a talent, and a talent that's going to make a big name internationally. There's no doubt about that. He's doing it in Group N cars, a lot slower, but having a big go. Ordynski, 4th last time in the World Championships in Group N, and really the best driver in Australia. Here's Rod Millen. Watch this, look at the bonnet flapping around on the Mazda. Bang, bang, won't worry him. Well, what he doesn't want it to do, of course, is suddenly flop up in front of him, but they're wired in.
Well, they have pins that come up through the bonnet. The bonnet goes down over those pins, and then they're either locked wide or clipped on over that. So the chance of that happening are pretty rare, but it's probably a little bit disconcerting because it is flapping in front of him.
So Rod Millen now heading on nicely there as he just throws it sideways. Corrects the steering, he'll come over the little jump here. Boom. Fantastic stuff. The mud flying here in the West. You're looking at the best in the West, and they're doing it in the third. We're having a great time here on Nines Wide Motorsports. 1:27 the time there, that's the speed. Let's have a look at his time though as he goes over the thing. 4:23.64 for the Kiwi. Okay, we're looking now at Ordynski again in the production car. But this fellow really, I can't put big enough raps on him. Everybody's talking about him. The 89 Group N Australian champion, first in Rally Australia. 1990, 10th Rally Australia. 92 Rally of New Zealand, second in Group N. And he really is so dedicated. And I really hope one day that he gets into a big fast car, and I'm sure it'll happen. Possum Bourne now. Chasing Douglas time, flame belching out of the exhaust. He gets it sideways over the jump and gets some air too. And Possum Bourne, he only knows which way to go, and that's hard.
It certainly is, but I'd still give anything to find out why they called him Possum.
I'm going to leave that alone. And you can see now the road really chopping up. Some great air there. Comes down on the bottom and kicks the boot up in the air. Now gets it sideways. Possum Bourne wants Douglas time. He's having a real big go. Watch for his time. This will be interesting. 3:51.18, a special time.
3, 2,
Okay, Carlos Menem, who's the son of the Argentinian president, and you can see on the car, Visit Argentina. His co-driver is Victor Zucchini, no relation to the vegetable, I
hope. Sponsored by Salad. Okay, and you can see now how the road has changed. They're coming down there in a lot easier fashion. Again, we're talking about production cars, but the road really starting to chop up. The big boys have let, there it is. There's the racing line down there, Alan. You can see we're starting to get 2 big ruts already.
Well, not only 2 big ruts, but you can actually see the water coming diagonally across it as well. So it really is very tricky conditions and ever-changing.
I mentioned earlier this morning that Carlos Sainz had a press conference here last night and said this Rally of Australia, the Telecom Rally of Australia, is certainly the best event run in the world. He said other organisers can come to Australia and learn how to put a rally on. He said the organisation's been fantastic and they will listen to the drivers and help the drivers. He also went on to say that the World Championship should be brought down to less rounds to make it more economical so the teams can attend every round. So Carlos Sainz, a big fan of the Aussie way.
Yeah, and doesn't that make you feel great? I mean, we've had similar compliments passed about the Australian Grand Prix, so we're doing it well down here.
No doubt about that. Well done in the West. They've really certainly put a big effort into this, and under these conditions, very trying. This is Ordynski. As he comes up now, you'll see a little stab of the brakes. We just missed that there, but watch him now. He'll get it sideways. You can see now trying to find a better line from that mush and slush that really makes the car slip and slide. I mean, they don't ever drive straight, these fellas, as he really hangs the tail out now. in the Group N car. Heads up the hill, lots deeper than it looks. Comes round, nice line there. You can see car gets a bit wishy-washy under brakes. He'll come over the jump here. Bang! Down he goes. A little touch on the brakes here.
Up towards the finish line. It'll be interesting to see what his speed is. We go for direct comparison with Dunkerton. 118. He's well down on speed. It's a heavier car, of course.
And hasn't got quite the power. So Edward Ordynski, his time 4:18:35. Let's recap now the Telecom Australia Rally after the 4th stage. Carlos Sainz El Matador in the Toyota Celica now leads from Auriol only by a second. Then Kankkunen 6 seconds off the pace. Vatanen is 10 seconds back. Look at this. Possum Bourne 34 seconds back has taken over from Ross Dunkerton. So that battle continues. Then we've got Recalde and the rest of the top 10.